What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessica and I talk about frugal living, fitness, motivation, and minimalism. As you can see by the title, I just had a baby. So in this video, I'm going to be going over things I didn't need that I had in my hospital bag, some things I wish I had or had more of, and just some experiences with giving birth in general that I wish I had known before. And since I'm going to be talking about those things, I'll just go ahead and say, due to the graphic nature, viewer discretion is advised. So I have some stuff over here that I'm going to show you that I had in my hospital bag, and I'll just tell you whether or not I used it, I didn't use it, stuff like that. So the first thing is something I'm glad I had. They were these things. I don't know if you can see. Okay, so these things are cold packs that are basically pads, and they have beads or something in the bottom. And what you do is you fold it and it like pops the pearls or whatever it has in them, and it creates this cooling sensation. And then if you want to be extra, you can add cool water on top of this before you use it, and it makes everything even cooler. The hospital had these, but the thing is, like, every time you go to the bathroom, which is a whole ordeal, you have to change out your pad because it gets wet and stuff. So I brought some with me, the hospital had some, and then I still ran out. Definitely stock up on these. Ask your OBGYN or whoever if they're gonna have these, because I refer to these as like liquid gold, because everything hurts and is swollen down there, and this was very helpful with getting through that whole process. So the next thing is this Peri bottle. The hospital had a Peri bottle, but it just looked like a water bottle with a squirt top. It didn't have like the top and the angle and everything. So I'm definitely glad I had this, because it made cleaning up after going to the bathroom really easy. Only put like warm water in this. Don't put hot water and don't put cold water. He'll thank me later. Okay, next is a robe. You know how you wear like a gown given to you by the hospital? Well, this hospital happened to have a robe made out of the gown material. So they gave me a robe basically, and it was a lot thinner than this and wasn't so bulky. So I didn't really need this robe, and even though it was February, I was going through like moments where I'd be really hot and really cold, and just having a robe provided by them just made it really easy, and I never even reached for this robe that I brought with me. Okay, next is this nightgown. I got a hospital nightgown, and I wanted to get one of these because, you know, the nightgowns at the hospital, they don't really close in the back. So I wanted like full coverage, but accessibility, you know? So that's why I got this. And when I was in labor and before I gave birth and everything, I didn't wear it, but I wore it after giving birth. I wore it for like a day, and it was more comfortable. I did end up using it, but I wouldn't call this a need, but it was a nice to have that I did use. Next are these mesh panties that the hospital gave me. I still have some left over, but they were not as good as like the adult diaper things that I bought for myself. The ones I got for myself, I'm out of them. I used them all up. But they are just pink like adult diapers, and I'll link a video below where you can see what they look like and stuff. They were a lot easier to use and more comfortable than these mesh things that didn't like come up as far as I wanted them to, and they were kind of flimsy, like they ripped really easily. And once you put in this cold pack and everything, they didn't stay on like when you got in and out of bed. And I even asked for like a bigger size, and it's still, once you put in the pad and everything, it's just hard to keep everything where you want it to be. So I definitely recommend getting your own like adult diapers instead of the mesh underwear from the hospital. Then I brought this water bottle. I'll go into this more in a minute, but I was able to drink water while I was actively in labor. I would like push, drink some water, put on some chapstick, do it again. After I gave birth, I went to another room, which I'll go over more in a minute, but there was like a huge water bottle, like double the size of this, that they had in there that I used instead of this. I could have just asked for that water bottle to begin with rather than using this one, unless you just want to use your own stuff. This was a nice to have, but I didn't really need it, and I didn't use it once I saw that they had this huge other water bottle. So as you may know, you're gonna be leaking fluid for several weeks after giving birth. So once you don't need these anymore, these cooling packs, I transitioned to these pads because you can't insert anything for like 6 weeks or more after giving birth. So you have to keep using pads. So I transitioned to these afterwards. Such a good boy. Next I have this little gem, you can see it, Dermaplast Spray. The hospital gave me 1 can of this, and I also had a second can that I had with me in my hospital bag. You'll find out if you're pregnant that going to the bathroom is like an ordeal. It takes like 7 to 10 minutes to do everything. And one of the things I did to help with the pain and swelling and everything is I sprayed this, and it like helped numb everything, like a cooling numbing sensation. And I went through 1 can of this in like a week. So I'm glad I had a second can of it. But ask your hospital if they can give you some of these, because it definitely helped. If you don't know already, I'm active duty Air Force. I'm in the military. So one of the things we kind of have with us at all times is shower shoes. So those are shoes, usually flip-flops, that you wear when you take a shower, so your bare feet aren't like in a public shower situation. So that's something I packed in my hospital bag, with shower shoes. So I got these from Walmart. I didn't want to pack a whole bunch of stuff, so I also just wore these around my hospital room and everything because they're slip resistant. But I also had these slip resistant socks. This paired with this worked out really well for me. So I just had this and my going home shoes, and that was it. Like, I didn't have slippers and a whole bunch of socks and 5 pairs of shoes, you know. Next I have is this that I got from my baby registry, and I love it. It's a breastfeeding pillow called My Breast Friend. And I had it with me in the hospital, and I didn't have a C-section, it was just a natural birth, but I was like so tired and uncomfortable. I didn't want to deal with undoing this and the Velcro and the straps and adjusting it and putting it around. So I just ended up just grabbing a pillow to use instead of this, and it worked out great. Like, I didn't need an intricate system. Just a regular pillow would be just fine if you didn't want to spend the money on something like this. I did end up using this after I got home, but in the hospital I just wanted like the quickest and easiest thing to get the job done. Next is something I wish I would have had with me, and I didn't think about it or research it or anything, and it wasn't until the problem showed itself that I realized that I needed to get a solution quickly, and that was this donut. So the hospital didn't give me like a donut or anything after my delivery, and I tore it pretty bad, so it hurt when I sat down. It hurt getting up, sitting down. It still does a little bit. So I wish I would have thought about getting one of these, because when I was in the hospital and I was trying to sit down, I ended up just folding 2 pillows like side by side and sitting in between them just to kind of simulate a donut because it hurt so bad. I definitely recommend getting something like this, because once you get home, it's going to be a few weeks before it doesn't hurt to sit down anymore. 10 out of 10 recommend a donut. So that's all the stuff I had just around me that I wanted to show you. So now I'm just going to go over a little cheat sheet I made of other things that I thought about last night that I wanted to share with you. So the adult diapers that I did bring, I wish I would have brought more, because every time you use the bathroom, you're going to want to change it out because everything gets like wet and gross. So I packed Toiletries with me, and I'm glad I did. They were very useful. I ended up being in the hospital for like 3 or 4 days. I'll get into it more, but I just went in for a checkup and they were like, yeah, you're not leaving. They admitted me. So I'll go into that in a minute. But definitely glad I had all the Toiletries with me. So I packed makeup. I just packed mascara, eyeliner, and foundation. I didn't use any of it. I was just so tired and in pain and over it. I just, no, didn't use any makeup. Oh, another thing I'm glad that I brought with me was my personal pillow and blanket, because their pillows and blankets are not comfortable like at all. So I brought it with me. Before I was in labor, I had my pillow and blanket. While I was in active labor, I just told her put my blanket aside. I don't want it to get gross. I got my blanket back again. 10 out of 10 recommend bringing your own pillow and blanket. I packed some headphones with me. I used those. I'm glad I had those because So when I wanted to scroll through my TikToks or something, I didn't disrupt anyone else in the room that was with me. So definitely bring your own headphones. I brought a Bluetooth speaker with me. I didn't use it. I brought a backup battery pack for my phone. I didn't use it. I just brought a really long charging cable, and that came in handy. But I forgot to pack the piece that plugs in from the USB to the wall. I forgot to pack one of those. So this is your reminder. I brought some pajamas with me, and they were comfortable and loose and everything, but I ended up just wearing hospital gowns and my personal hospital gown until it was time to leave, and then I actually changed into my going home outfit, which were just sweatpants, really loose sweatpants, and like a long sleeve hoodie kind of thing. Very loose, comfortable clothes. So the next thing is something I got, and it's useful, but I didn't need it while I was in the hospital, and that was a belly wrap thing, and it comes in 3 pieces, and it's in my hospital bag video that's linked below, and I'm using it now, and it came in handy, but you don't need it while you're in the hospital. I brought the shirt that has the straps that come down for breastfeeding. I used that. It kind of acted as like a bra, but a compression shirt, and everything was accessible, you know, and really easy. And I just wore it under my hospital gown, and it was comfortable, and I used it. I brought a personal swaddle that I, brought. It was a zip up swaddle, but the hospital just showed me how to do a traditional swaddle in their hospital blanket thing, so I didn't need the zip up swaddle. But I use those swaddles now that I'm back. I don't do the traditional swaddle because she's like a Houdini, and she can get out of swaddles really easy. So the onesies that I brought with me to the hotel for her going home outfit, I had a baby girl, by the way. It was a little big. So if you just happen to have different sizes of onesies, I recommend bringing them, because she was and it was a newborn size, but I guess for that brand, it ran big. So she just looked so tiny in the little car seat. But I just had that one, a long sleeve onesie and a short sleeve onesie. And since it was snowing in winter, we just decided to keep her in the long sleeve onesie for the car seat. I packed a couple snacks in my hospital bag, but I didn't need them. What I also packed in my hospital bag were these pads for in case like my boobs leaked from breastfeeding and stuff, but it wasn't at that stage, and I didn't need them. I needed them once I was home, but I didn't need them in my hospital bag. I definitely needed the chapstick that I bought. I'm glad I had that, and my hair ties. And I brought a baby book with me, and I didn't fill out the baby book. I kind of just wanted the footprints from her birth, and the paper they used, they were out of the paper. So luckily I had my baby book, and they just put her footprints like right in the book for me. Just something to think about there. Or just bring a piece of paper with you to the hospital. Okay, so that's everything that I could think of that I packed or didn't pack or wish I had more of. And so now I'll get into some of the things I wish I would have known, or things that might help you with your labor and delivery experience. One of the issues I had with this situation, pregnancy experience, was that I didn't have my hospital bag ready to go in my car when the hospital wanted to admit me. And I didn't have it in there because a month prior my car was broken into and they stole my hospital bag. So I had to re-buy everything, get a whole new bag, all the stuff that was in it. And the person who broke into my car cut my seatbelt that was holding in the car seat, and since that happened in my gated community, I chose to not put my hospital bag in my car anymore. However, that became an issue when the hospital wanted to admit me when I went for my routine checkup. So my mom and I went in for my 39-week routine checkup, and they did an ultrasound, and they saw that I had really low fluid in my uterus, and this was unsafe for the baby. I don't know where the fluid went. There just wasn't a lot in there. So because of that, they wanted to go ahead and admit me and induce me like that day. I was like, oh crap. Luckily, they told me to like go have one last meal, and they let me go get my hospital bag from home. So if you feel comfortable, just go ahead and keep your hospital bag in your car. The next thing I wish I would have known is that, and of course the doctors explained it, but like when you have to make a decision like in the moment, you you've got to like process everything really quickly and make a decision really quick. So if you have time to think about it ahead of time, that's great, right? So since they had to induce me, they had to get my cervix to open, and then they had to get my contractions to start, because my water didn't break. Like, there was no signs of me going into labor. I just didn't have fluid in my uterus. So in order to get the party started, they first had to open the cervix. And to do this, there's 2 ways that they told me about. One was to insert a balloon to mechanically open the cervix, and the second one was to give me a pill to get it to open. And they said the balloon was safer for the baby. And if I can, I'll insert some pictures of what that might look like. I can't think of the name of the pill. It starts with a C. I'll like put it below here for you. Y'all, this balloon thing was so painful. Before they started that whole thing, they said I was 1 centimeter dilated, which I think is subjective anyway. And checking to see how much you're dilated is painful on its own. For me, at least, it was excruciating. Yeah, they checked the cervix, painful. Inserted the balloon, painful. And the balloon was messed up or something. They had to get another one. It was just a nightmare. When they took it out, they discovered I was only 5 centimeters dilated, but I needed to be to 10 before I could, start pushing and stuff. So after they did the balloon, it didn't get as far as they wanted it to go or something. So then they wanted to give me the pill that starts with a C that I can't remember. But I could have just taken the pill to begin with. So balloon, done. Took it out. They took it out the next morning. Then they gave me the pill. And I think they got me like 3 more centimeters dilated. Followed by Pitocin, which is to trigger contractions and everything, is to get everything moving. Around that time, like 4:30 that afternoon, what little fluid I had, I felt like the water break and it came out. But they didn't like care or something, like it wasn't a big deal. And what I didn't like was like the nurses and the staff kept switching out. So I was like working with different people through this whole thing. When they did the shift change at like 7 p.m. that night, they checked the cervix again. I was at 9 centimeters dilated. After a few hours of going through the contractions, I finally got the epidural. The epidural was cake. That thing was that didn't bother me at all. And the contractions and getting my cervix checked and that balloon thing was so much more painful than getting the epidural. So 10 out of 10 recommend. Another thing I didn't know about labor and delivery was that I got something called a clear meal, clear breakfast. So that was just Jell-O, popsicles, some chicken broth, and some water. So I could consume nourishment, which I thought wasn't something I could do going in. And when they told me I could have like a last meal, I was like, okay, this is legit. But they ended up giving me something, to eat. When they went to admit me, I first went to a triage room, and that's where they confirmed, low fluid, how many weeks I was at, and just details like that. And then they were like, okay, yeah, we're gonna admit you. So they moved me to a labor and delivery room that had a pull-out couch for like the people who were with me to sleep and everything. And my mom was awesome. She came home to take care of Titan during this whole thing. The room was huge, and I was in there for over a day and a half. Like, I was there for a while. And then 2 hours after I gave birth, epidural still in my system, they moved me from a labor and delivery room to like a nursing aftercare room that was the same size, but it had like a pull-out couch, a pull-out chair. They both had like huge showers and bathrooms and stuff, like a recovery room. And I was like at 4 in the morning, so moved there. Another thing was there was lots of tearing, and the doctor probably spent 15 or 20 minutes stitching me up. And I couldn't feel any pain, but I felt like liquid coming out of me, but it was blood. Like, I lost quite a bit of blood, and my blood pressure went from like perfect to really low, and that caused me to like shake a bunch. Note for the epidural: once the doctor put in the epidural and got everything set up, he gave me like this remote with a button that I could push for like an extra dose of epidural juice. And I didn't know that like you could only push it every 15 minutes. But I didn't push it until the doctor came and was trying to get her out after like 4 hours. For that button, it's just for every 15 minutes. You can't like keep pushing it. So, and I had my debt-free ring, but I lost it in the hospital. I don't know where it's at, but I ordered a new one. So if you bring jewelry or anything with you, just before the excitement starts, just take everything valuable off, put it away in a safe place. Overall, I think it was a good experience. I can't obviously compare it to birth in a civilian hospital, but the overall feeling and experience felt like it was as close as it could be to a regular hospital. All the nurses and everyone was so nice. It was just kind of a pain to like have to remember everyone's name if I needed something, or like I had to meet a new person twice a day, every day, multiple people that were like, my team seemed to change twice a day, every day. It was kind of a pain for that, but overall it was as good as it could be, you know, as expected. So I just wanted to share all that with you. If you have any questions or want me to elaborate, let me know in the comments below. Right now I'm working on losing that baby weight, right? So I'm already down like 20 pounds. So let me know if you want me to do a video on that journey. And I'll see you guys next time.